Dr. Oppenlander's book, Comfortably Unaware, is loaded with information about global depletion. If you don't get a chance to read it yourself, here are a few snippets. I'm sure you're aware that it's more efficient to grow food and eat it yourself than to grow food to feed to an animal and then to eat the animal. For example, a cow needs to eat 8 pounds of dry weight feed to gain 1 pound of body weight, and that's not just meat. For pigs it's 5 pounds, for chicken it's 2 pounds, and for grass-fed cattle it's a whopping 30 pounds. Now that is not efficient. Our desire for meat is rising rapidly. Between 1960 and 2000, total global beef consumption doubled, milk tripled, eggs quadrupled, chicken consumption went up 8-fold, and now every year the average American eats about 60 pounds of beef, 50 pounds of pork, 80 pounds of chicken, 15 pounds each of turkey and fish, 245 eggs, 40 pounds of cheese, 600 pounds of dairy, including 22 gallons of milk. Now that represents a vast amount of feed. And if we think about land use, 45% of the land on planet Earth is used to raise animal feed or animals. And 80% of our coarse grains, that's corn, maize, barley, rye, oats, etc., all gets fed to livestock. And only 5% of the land on Earth is used to grow plant-based foods that are consumed directly by humans. And that 5% of land supplies 80% of the calories that we eat. So what about yield? How much do we get from 1 acre? Well, you can get 300 pounds of beef. That's in a year. But might sound okay, but what if I tell you that you can get 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of buckwheat, 3,000 pounds of beans, or if you grow spinach, 16,000 pounds, potatoes or collard greens, 40,000 pounds. In other words, 10 to 100 times more food per acre and 15 times as much protein as we got from that one cattle beast. Now you might be thinking, oh, but we need animal manure to grow crops organically. But if you plant 1 acre with a cover crop or a green crop, in 1 year you get the nitrogen contribution that's equivalent to 12 tonnes of poultry manure. Meanwhile, that cover crop gives us side benefits. There's less erosion, you get some nice organic matter, it suppresses the weeds, it fixes atmospheric nitrogen, it captures and recycles soluble nutrients, provides a habitat for beneficial insects. Now, I don't need to tell you that the world is facing a water shortage. Currently, 1/3 of the world's population lives in countries with moderate to high water stress, and that is estimated to double in the next 10 years to 2/3 of the world. Now, the media would have us believe that in this country, growing almonds is the culprit for our water shortage. In fact, 50% of our total water usage goes into raising, you guessed it, animals. For example, each cow drinks 11,000 gallons per year. And then there's the irrigation to grow the feed that the cow's going to eat. The cow will drink 15 gallons of water to give us 1 gallon of milk. And then we'll use 250 to 300 gallons of irrigation to grow the alfalfa and grain that she'll eat every day. So milk is actually very costly. And then we concentrate that milk into cheese, and you're talking serious water usage. Did you know it takes 60 gallons of water to make 1 egg? Now, compared to vegetable gardening, it takes 3 times more water to produce the milk, 10 times for the egg, 14 times for the chicken, 19 times for pork, and 48 times as much for beef. Now, let's turn our attention to fish. 85% of the world's fisheries in the ocean have been pushed to or beyond their biological limits. 90% of all large predatory fish are gone. Tuna, shark, cod, halibut, swordfish. And when trawlers pull in a catch, there's always what they call bykill. In other words, other fish or marine creatures that get pulled into the net and are dead by the time they find them. That's 300,000 small whales, dolphins and porpoises, 250,000 endangered sea turtles, 300,000 seabirds, and 100 million sharks. Now, 50% of all fish that is consumed is now coming from fish farms. And you think, well, that's good, but actually it has its own problems too. Uses a lot of well water, depleting the aquifers. We use power for the pumps, and the water recycling is quite high usage there. And the food for fish has to come from the ocean. So you take 25 pounds of wild fish to make 1 pound of fish farmed tuna. And they take juveniles from the ocean. I mean, they just take whatever they'll get. Fish from the ocean has heavy metal contamination, so you're still getting that problem in your fish farm. You've also got to deal with the raw sewage from the fish, and because they're contained in small environments, you get heavy use of antibiotics and medications for the fish and high growth of bacteria. Meanwhile, we're being advised to double our intake of fish. Hello? I think there are 3 reasons to eat less meat, or maybe even no meat. One is health, and we talk about that all the time on this show. Secondly is ethics. We wouldn't dream of eating our family pet, yet we're comfortably unaware that millions of intelligent animals are slaughtered to satisfy our palate. And thirdly, environment. Our demand to eat meat and animal products is responsible for 30 to 50% of all man-made greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. 80% of deforestation of rainforests, which are cleared to raise animals or animal feed. 100% of overgrazing, fisheries collapse, food insecurity issues, and 50% of the rapid extinction of species.